Hello, welcome to Toasty Talks. We're here to talk toast with me, Tegan Taylor. It's the T-show, I think. I'm the co-host of Coronacast usually, but today we're talking mental health and comfort food. So before we get started, I want to acknowledge the Yugara and Turrbal people whose lands I'm joining you from today. I want to acknowledge the elders past, present, emerging, and just reinforce the fact that sovereignty was never ceded. So, like I said, usually I'm talking about the coronavirus, the pandemic, its physical effects on our bodies, but of course, it's had a really big effect on our brains as well. So, here to talk to us today is someone who's very aware of both physical, mental health, and just general awesomeness, Dr. Sandro Demaio from Big Health. How are you?
G'day, I'm good. And I too'd like to just acknowledge the Wurundjeri people, the Kulin Nation, where I'm on here, the land I'm on here in Melbourne.
So we're going to.
I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I actually am doing pretty well. I'm pretty excited to just have a yarn and a toasty with you today, Sandro. So
I have been looking at this toasty, waiting to dig in for like 20 minutes. So we've got time.
So you're in Melbourne. Now that you've got a mouthful of food, I'd like to ask you some complicated questions. I'm sure people in ACT and Sydney might have something to say about this, but Melbourne has done it really tough over the past 18 months.
Yeah, look, I think everyone across Australia Victoria, it has been really tough. The fact that we've been in lockdown for so long, the fact that we were sort of, we were the source of a lot of it last year, or seen as the source, that there's been this division between states, and that once again today we've got, we've had a bit of a setback in the numbers, although amazing vaccination rates, which we're really proud of. All those things do add layers. I think at the start of all of this, almost many of us had knew someone who was doing it tough, knew someone who was facing a really difficult time, whether it was their job, they were worried about their kids, they had some direct impact on their health, or even they had contracted the virus and seen either long COVID or been sick. I think now, though, everyone has been affected in some way. There are kind of traumas that have resulted from this in everyone's lives, no matter who they are. And acknowledging that there's no single lived experience. It's different for everyone. But it's got to the point now where I think every Australian has been touched by this last 2 years and is probably finding a really difficult time.
Yeah, and that's something we really want to dig into today, of just acknowledging that and also talking about how to manage it. But you've got your toasty. I think I might let you fill your mouth again. I go and make mine real quick.
Yeah. No, in mine I've got cheese, a bit of Dijon, and some good grandmother's ham. I don't know why it's called grandmother's ham, but so it'll work out later. On some sourdough with some, and I do it in the pan. So do it in the fry pan, get it nice and crispy. Yeah,
it's very gourmet.
Get some nice caramelization. Well, actually, it's probably it's not really because it's gourmet, just because I don't have a sandwich press, to be honest.
No, it definitely sounds like you're an epicure of sorts. But I'm in the ABC building, and we were told that if we had the sandwich maker going in here, that we'd set off the smoke alarms for the entire building. So I had to make mine earlier today. All right, toasty time. Let's make a delicious toasted sandwich. It has been pouring with rain in Brisbane for the last 24 hours, and I can't think of a better piece of comfort food to eat than a toasty. So my patented, tried and true, copyright empowered method of making a toasty involves, you've got to crisp up the bread on the outside when it's cooking. So this is the outside that you butter, and then it gets all kind of crispy and brown, which is very nice. And then the other thing I like to do, because I'm fancy, take a bit of garlic and rub it on the outside of the bread as well. Makes it a bit like garlic bread. More pieces of food should be like garlic bread. So, all right. And then for the inside of my toasty, cheese, of course. If you don't eat dairy, there's other types of cheeses you can choose. And then my dad loves beetroot and cheese toasty. So that's what we're going to do today in honour of my dad. Beetroot on a toasted sandwich. I thought that was a normal thing until I was older than you'd expect, because go to a sleepover and ask for beetroot and cheese on a toasted sandwich, people look at you a bit weird. Anyway, here we are. I'm a grown up, I can do what I want now. And so my beetroot's on, delish. I'm going to put my cheese on. Grated makes it spread out nicely. I told someone I was going to do this, and they said that their secret toasty trick was to put cheese on the outside. So I'm going to do that too. More crispy brownness, the better, right? All right, it's time to toast it. Chuck it in the toasting machine. Whoever invented these should get some sort of Nobel Prize for humanity. All right, sizzle. Listen to it sizzle. Okay, moment of truth. Let's see if this little toastie's any good. Oh yes, look at that. That's my cheese. Yum. All right. Bet Sandro's toastie's not as good as this one. Oh yes. So here it is, my purple toastie with my big cheese and garlic and butter on it. It's delicious. I just let it cool down for a second.
Garlic on the outside, that's a bit of genius right there, I reckon.
I'm a fancy lady. What do you make of the beetroot on the toastie? You a beetroot fan?
It's funny. I declared just a few days ago on Twitter that I am not a big beetroot on burger person. Who knew that was going to be so divisive in Australian social media? I tell you, I will not talk about my burger preferences ever again on Twitter.
Well, I think you should, because we put out the call out yesterday to just get people's toasty recipes. And boy, did you deliver. We've actually got Zoe, our social media manager, here to talk about what people did and didn't like about on toasties. Zoe, hello.
From Dark and Young Country on the New South Wales Central Coast today. Thank you for having me. And just like Sandro said, everything is divisive in social media land. So I'm not surprised that not accepting beetroot on a burger has caused you problems. And look, some of the toasty flavour combinations coming back from right around Australia are confronting in some cases and definitely causing arguments in our comment section on ABC Australia's Facebook page. Things like cheese and marmalade, which is not something I have tried, but the commenter did write, don't knock it until you've tried it. So, there is a time and a place for everything. So maybe that's more of a dessert toasty. I'm not sure. There's someone called Kathy who writes her old dad's invention, which was a sliced baked potato, Vegemite and cheese on a toasty. Leonie writes that when her husband and her lived in Cape Tribulation, and I really like this story because it shows how easy and kind of fundamental a toasty is to all our lives. They lived on nothing but toasties for 4 days during Cyclone Yazi because the power went out, but for a small generator, that's all they could provide. And she says since then, her husband has never eaten a toasty. And then we go to the fancy ones, which are like Granny Smith or Pink Lady Apple with tasty cheese, with or without sultanas and walnuts, which is heading into that dessert territory. But perhaps the most controversial flavour combination is just barbecue sauce alone with no cheese.
Thanks, Zoe. Leave your recipe suggestions in the comments, folks, of what you'd like to see on a toasty or a jaffle, or I don't know. I kind of wonder if a calzone counts as a toasty. Sandro, what do you reckon?
Oh, now we're talking. I actually got some pizza rising in the kitchen. Calzone, I like that idea. What we could, I think that some of those combinations of apple and cheese, but I reckon a bit of tomato, basil, and some good mozzarella cheese in a calzone. It's like the OG jaffle. I'd never thought about it that way, but you've just blown my mind.
I guess, you could really, it's really quite a philosophical question in a sense. Like, what is a toasty? Where is it a pie? What's a calzone? Like, we're really dealing with the deep questions here on Toasty Talks today.
I think it has to do with the crust, right? Anyway.
It's like cheese inside something delicious. It's like something delicious inside something else delicious. In a sense, anything is a toasty. Everything good. And nothing is a toasty. But let's talk about other things. Melbourne's had the longest period of lockdown in all of Australia. You're living through it. You're also a doctor. Like, how's it been for you? And what are people telling you about what it's like for them?
Yeah, look, I think it's what I'm hearing is that there's no sort of single experience of all of this, and that there's almost no static experience. Like you can have, just like the weather in Melbourne, it's, you know, winter 1 minute and summer the next. It's the Corona coaster that we've been talking about. It's that roller coaster of feelings that you can have across the day, and that's because of I think the incredible tiredness that people have. We've just been going at this for so long. It's that long-term stress response that does have effects on things like mood and appetite and sleep and memory and concentration, decision-making. It's the fact that life has just had to continue to go on. So we've put all this pressure on ourselves because, you know, work doesn't stop, school doesn't stop. Being a parent or a son or a daughter or a grandparent doesn't change. So I think it's been, people are, I think now, you know, it's changed at different points, but I think where we are now is people are really tired. But I think there's also a sense of unity. You know, 90+% people are vaccinated in many of the LGAs across Victoria. Regional Victorians have come out in massive force. Young people, 65% or so, 12, 15-year-olds vaccinated in just a few weeks. I think that's just reminding us all how much like solidarity and commitment and general kind of goodness there is in the Victorian community and across Australia to get through this together, despite what we're hearing sometimes, or despite all of the setbacks and roller coasters of the last 18 months.
You mentioned solidarity just then, and we are talking about food, so we'd better talk about solidarity pancakes. Well, tell me about that. What inspired it?
Yes, well, so my partner's a doctor also, but she works clinically. She's at the Children's Hospital, and my grandma's 98. I came back to Australia after 10 years living overseas to spend more time with my grandma and my partner. And so going into lockdown, you know, 3 months after I arrived back, the sense of loss for me was I just didn't get to see my family, and particularly my grandma. She's not going to live forever, but she's still really healthy. She was a frontline worker herself many, many decades ago in World War II as a nurse. And so she kind of has a bit of an affinity for, and I think she has a sense of kind of, connection to many of our frontline workers and what they're going through. Anyway, so I got into the habit on a Sunday of making pancakes, just as a little sign. I left them outside her door. It was peak COVID, and we weren't even able to, visit her at this point. None of us were vaccinated. This was months ago. This was well over a year actually ago. So I made pancakes every Sunday, and then it just became a bit of a routine, a bit of a tradition. And in fact, it became such a big tradition for my grandma and my partner that one Sunday I forgot, and I went to the hairdresser a few days later, and I live in the same building as my grandma, and we both go to the same hairdresser. And my hairdresser actually reminded me that I'd forgotten pancakes because my grandmother had mentioned how disappointed she was that Sunday. So I never missed another Sunday of pancakes. And then it was probably about 2 months ago on social media, I just thought people need something to kind of, there's, a small sense of positivity and connection in this time, particularly getting us through to when we're all vaccinated. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but it is still just such a rough time for so many. And so I said on social media, look, there are 100 families that want to join me making pancakes on a Sunday. It's about coming together, whether it's on Zoom or with your family members, cooking pancakes, enjoying some pancakes on a Sunday, and giving a shout out to our frontline workers, just thinking of them every Sunday. And the response was massive, like thousands of people trending nationally on Twitter every Sunday. We had, people making injera and rocca and all sorts of pancakes from all around the world, making it kind of their own day. And it's just amazing, like a sense of unity, and I suppose people wanting to do something each Sunday that just marks our respect and our deep appreciation for not just the doctors and nurses, but also, those that keep food on our shelves, those that are cleaning our tram stops, those that are keeping us fed and safe and warm and are allowing us, I suppose, to do what we're all doing, which is to stay home and protect each other.
What is it about food that brings us together so much? Or it's just so nostalgic. It's so tied to our emotions.
Absolutely. And food, you can eat something. I reckon whether it's music or food, there will be foods that you eat that take you instantly back to another time. For me, like there are a couple of pasta dishes that I'll have that instantly remind me of my nonna, who's been dead for 15 years, rest in peace. And it takes me back to, I was probably about 5 or 6, staying over at her house, and she would cook this food, this cucina povera type food for me. And I think it's probably the same for many people. You know, it's something that allows us to come together. It's something that no matter who you are, where you're from, what your political background, what your interests, you know, most of us love food, and many of us are obsessed with food, particularly in Melbourne, and I'd say probably most places across Australia. And as an Italian, like food was always central to our culture. It's something that really did bring, you know, it was the one time that the entire family would enjoy something together. So it's that sense of community, it's a sense of past, it's a sense of tradition. And I think at the moment, what many of us are missing, and what's really important, is routine and an anchor, because there's so much volatility and change in our lives, so much uncertainty day to day, week to week, that having a routine, you know, eating 3 meals, even cooking from scratch, which we've seen people doing more and more during lockdown, partly to save money, but also because, you know, people have been wanting to kind of get back to some of the basics and share things as a household. You know, I think it has that has been a way that people have been able to stay connected and do something meaningful and creative, and bring a sense of normality to their lives during lockdown through food and through some of their favorite recipes and through cooking.
Yeah, and you talked about being apart from family members during lockdown, but like for a lot of people, they're really with their family. You know, they've got kids at home, homeschooling. You're really locked in with the people that you've loved them before, but maybe you've forgotten how. Like, do you have any advice on how to navigate those relationships where you're either so separate or you're really, really together?
Yeah, well, look, I think, you know, if you're still in lockdown like we are in Melbourne and Victoria, you know, once you've acknowledged it's tough, and, you know, be okay with the feelings you have, as long as you're safe, you know, and if you need help, always reach out and never feel ashamed to ask for help. Once you've kind of come to terms with how you feel and accepted that, you know, routines really, really important, lowering our expectations of what we can do across the day, but staying connected, you know, that is a critical one. And so for those of you who are living at home on your own, or are, you know, disconnected, it's so important for our mental health, for our physical health even, to stay connected. So whether it's making a phone call, whether it's actually having a Skype lunch, whether it's, you know, catching up in a safe way like a picnic once a week, you know, these things are going to be really important in terms of protecting our mental health as we, you know, across the next couple of weeks and as we start to emerge. If you're at home and you're getting a bit, you know, stir crazy or a little bit too much of the good stuff with your family around, you know, maybe thinking about different zones. I live in a really small apartment. It's hard to do, but, you know, maybe spending some time outside each day, having a routine where you have a little bit of time away and some time together. And I think a really big thing for people has been kind of almost information and tech overload, as well as then the people around them. And so maybe rather than, you know, reducing the part that's like right next to you, maybe thinking about having some time away from the tech each day or having a day offline each week, you know, making sure that you're really in control of what you're seeing, the information you're getting, and that the social media you're engaging with is, you know, building your resilience and feeding your kind of soul, I suppose, at the moment, rather than contributing to your anxiety and the stress that we're all feeling.
Yeah, and of course, if this is bringing up anything for you, you can call Lifeline anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 13 11 14. And I'm really conscious that we've had it pretty lightly in Queensland so far, at least, you know, but the times that we have been in lockdown, I've found that looking at something green really helps. And I've got plant babies now that I never had before, and I really kind of valued that time in nature, that exercise time that we got way more than I think I totally took it for granted in the past. Sandro, it's nearly time for us to finish our toasties and head off, but is there any parting pieces of wisdom that you'd love to give to people, especially those who are still living in lockdown?
Yeah, look, be patient with yourself. And even as you come out of lockdown, we've told our brains for 18 months that certain things are, that home is safe. Home is there's a sense of control, that doing certain things, almost we've trained ourselves that they're not allowed or they're not as safe as they used to be. So be patient with yourself as we do start to open up. If it takes you a little bit longer than everyone else to feel comfortable getting back to a normal life, that's okay. Take it easy on yourself and just take time to get back into that new rhythm. But do reconnect with, the things that you loved before. Reconnect with family. Stay connected with friends. And above all, just really take care of yourselves. It is a tough time. It's okay to say that. You can think it's tough and you can be frustrated, and yet still fully support vaccination and all the important public health measures. Just take care of yourself over this next period, and most importantly, take care of your mental health.
Thanks so much, Sandro, for your time today.
Thank you.
And thanks to you guys all for joining us as well. I hope that some of you at least chucked a toasty and ate it with us, even if you did have peanut butter and banana on it, or whatever those weird combinations were that you put in the comments. We're going to come back again next week and do this again. It'll be a different topic with different guests. Thanks to all of you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.